The lack of confidence in a job interview can be the kiss of death, but don't worry. In this video, I'm going to share with you some tips to improve your confidence in interviews. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brian and I'm a corporate recruiter, and I make videos on how to improve your career. So if you're interested in more videos just like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and you might also want to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future posts. If you're somebody that tends to get nervous and clam up in your interviews, you're not alone. Probably one of the most nerve-wracking things a person can go through, but unfortunately, confidence in an interview setting is something that you will have to master if you're serious about landing your dream job. Think of it like this: if you go to a gym and you avoid doing pull-ups, it's usually because your back is weak. So you have to work on it. You have to do little exercises over time that will gradually strengthen your back so that you can do the pull-ups. The same thing goes for interviewing. If you tend to be nervous, it's usually because you have a weakness or a lack of confidence, or more importantly, a lack of practice, and it's just something that we need to work on. And to that end, the very first thing that you want to do is you want to have a strategy. Walking into an interview without having any idea why you're there or what you want to try to accomplish is a recipe for disaster, because it's really unlikely that you're going to be able to wing it on the spot and truly impress an interviewer. And I'll be honest with you, I'm surprised at the number of people that I interview myself that come into an interview without any clear idea of what they truly want in their career and how this position aligns with their long-term career goals. So at the very minimum, come in with some strategy, because if you know what you're trying to accomplish in the interview, you're automatically going to portray more confidence because you have a clear vision of who you are. And while you're at it, before you head into the interview, you should certainly be studying the job description very carefully so that you have a good understanding of what it is that we're looking for in this position. And you should be doing base level research before you walk in the door, but you'd be surprised at the number of people who don't even read the job description carefully. And a lot of the questions that we ask are directly related to the job description. So if you read the job description and you have an understanding of what it is that we're going to be asking you ahead of time, then you're probably going to have a better chance at being confident in the interview because you've studied up on it. So please study the job description very carefully before you walk in the door. You have a better chance at impressing the interviewer and aligning yourself as a better possible fit. To that end, if you notice something on job descriptions in your industry that you tend to be weak on, it's time to start skilling up. What I mean by that is, if you have a gap on your resume that you tend to get asked about in an interview, maybe it's a technology or maybe it's an industry standard software that you haven't been exposed to, see if there's a way that you can figure out how to fill that gap. At the very minimum, read up on it so that you can talk intelligently about it in an interview. Because in most major industries and job types, the industries are very fluid, and if you're somebody that has spent a particularly long amount of time in one company or one industry or one job type and haven't really experienced where the market is heading, you can find yourself on the outside looking in pretty quickly as far as current skill set. And as you're looking at all these job postings and reading through these job descriptions very carefully, you can get a pretty good understanding of what the industry is looking for in those roles. So take note of where you stack up and maybe some areas that you can improve on, and work on reskilling yourself if necessary, because if you have the right skills, you're going to feel more confident in the interview. Conversely, if you don't have the skills, you're going to be very defensive as a job seeker because you're going to feel the imposter syndrome. You're going to hope that they don't ask you a specific question that's going to expose your lack of knowledge. And that does not bode well for confidence in an interview. So once you understand all this stuff, then you want to know what your value case is or why you're the best possible fit for the job. You should be able to clearly articulate in a very concise manner why it is that you're the best possible fit for what the hiring manager is looking for. And if you can't do that, then that's something that you need to circle and start to figure out, because if you can't, other people will, and it's going to put you behind the eight ball. I would also recommend that you ask questions early into the interviewing process, and you might want to do this for every interviewer that you meet, including the first level recruiter, because if you can ask the right questions early in, it can help set you up for the rest of the interview, because you'll have a little bit of an insider's edge of knowing what they're going to be assessing you for. There's a lot of advice going around about asking questions at the end of the interview, and honestly, I feel that's a little too late to try to make a favorable first impression. Or if you're simply just trying to learn more about the position so you can assess whether or not it's a good opportunity for you, then wait till the end of the interview, that's fine. But if you need more ideas on questions that you can be asking in your interview, I actually made another video about that, and I will leave a link somewhere above. The next thing I would suggest is doing a little bit of a reverse reference check. If you're particularly motivated about a job that you're interviewing for, it might be worth doing a little bit of a reverse reference check. Now, what's a reverse reference check? Simply put, it's going and finding people who used to be in a similar role at that company and asking them for a few minutes of time. And so you basically set up a call with them and walk through some of your concerns, ask them what their thoughts were on the job. And while you got them on the call, maybe it's worth asking them about a day in the life of. They could potentially walk you through some of their daily tasks, paint a realistic picture of the job, and maybe give you some insight into the hiring manager and their style. Now, of course, not everybody's going to be willing to give out this information, so you might have to knock on a few doors, but if you can get somebody on the phone, it can be a very effective way to get reconnaissance and to walk into that interview with a high degree of confidence. The next major thing that I would suggest is going and looking at Glassdoor, because you can get a lot of good information about what to expect in the interviewing process. So if you head over to Glassdoor, search for the company that you're interviewing for, and in particular, try to search for the job type that you're interviewing for. A lot of times people will indicate what interview questions they were asked. And while an astute company may mix those questions up, at least it gives you an idea of the types of questions that you might be asked, and then how to prepare for them. Because again, it boils down to the preparation that you make before you walk in the door. This is the most important part of showing confidence in your interview. And I would also suggest dressing the part, making sure that you feel confident in how you look. Don't overdress or underdress. You can potentially even ask the recruiter beforehand what the expected dress code is. You may also want to check your internet connection if it's a Zoom call to ensure that there's no hiccups there, because nothing kills confidence more than showing up late to an interview because of technology problems or potentially hitting a traffic jam. So make sure you do what you can to prepare for the things that you can control. And of course, a major component to confidence in an interview is practicing. So practice, 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 and practice some more. Especially if you're somebody that tends to get nervous, because usually nerves is a result of somebody not feeling confident about their answers, not truly knowing what they're doing, and not being able to deliver them in a clear and concise manner. In a lot of cases, practicing early and often can eliminate a lot of those nerves. Now, I want to stress that we want to practice, but not rehearse, because if you're somebody that tends to memorize your answers as if you're preparing for a school play, if you forget a single line, you could be like deer in headlights, and all that does is just cascade on top of it. You can end up in a snowballing situation where the rest of your interview is off track because all you're thinking about is how you messed up that first answer. So in other words, we're going to get very comfortable about telling our stories, but not in a rehearsed way. And the final tip that I want to share with you is just to simply ground yourself before you go into the interview, because if you're somebody that tends to get very nervous before your interviews, it might be worth doing some deep breaths, take a walk around the block, maybe play with your dog a little bit, something to get your mind off of it. But if you're cramming right before your interview, just like you cram for a test, generally speaking, that doesn't turn out very well. Just trust your preparation, know that you've done enough, and you should do just fine. And if you don't do just fine and you do clam up and get nervous, take note of where you got nervous so that you can practice, practice, practice some more so that the next time you interview, you won't repeat the same mistakes. Now, if you've gone through all these tips and you're still somebody that's struggling and you need more help, that's actually something that I specialize in. I've got a website called lifeafterlayoff.com, and it's loaded with tips and tricks all from an insider's perspective. I do have some of my deepest and most intimate knowledge in the form of some training courses, the first one being Resume Rocketfuel, and it's designed to teach you how to write a resume that's going to give you the best chance of getting noticed by that recruiter for the first round interview. So if you're somebody that's not even getting any interviews at all, it's usually a resume problem, and that's where Resume Rocketfuel comes in. Once you get that first round interview, though, it's up to you to sell yourself throughout the rest of the interviewing process, and that's where the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp comes in. It's going to take you step by step through each round of the interviewing process, ultimately to landing that dream offer. Now, if you're somebody that wants to bypass the recruiter altogether and skip right to the front of the line, I would look at my Unlocking LinkedIn course, which teaches you how to script the recruiter and access the hidden job market. So make sure you check that one out as well. And I'm also available for some limited private one-on-one coaching sessions. You can reach me on my website for that. I'll leave all the information in the description of this video. Hey, if you're getting to the interview and you're getting rejected, you're actually doing something right, because it means you're actually getting into the interviewing process. So just a little bit of tweaking and you should get across the finish line. Appreciate you watching. Good luck on those interviews, and we'll see you on the next one.